Good morning. I'm Sergeant Dan Adams, Grand Rapids Police Department. At approximately 1:40 a.m. this morning, Grand Rapids Police and other first responders responded to the 1000 block of Hancock Street Southeast here in the city for what we refer to as an echo medical call. This is a high priority medical emergency call. Upon arrival, officers found that the family members were attempting CPR and other life-saving measures on a baby approximately 1 month old. First responders, including GRPD, Grand Rapids Fire Department, and Life EMS, took over life-saving measures, but ultimately were unsuccessful, and the child was pronounced dead at the scene. As with all death investigations, GRPD is conducting the inquiry and investigation into the circumstances surrounding the child's death. Detectives are here on scene along with forensics. The medical examiner's office will be consulted and most likely ultimately perform an autopsy. Again, this is standard with all death investigations. Department's hearts and prayers go out to the family. There's some here on scene. We apologize for the inconvenience to the neighborhood, but obviously this is very serious, and we want to make sure that we do everything right. We'll probably be on scene for a little bit longer here, but hopefully be able to open the road back up. If your travel arrangements for work this morning requires the 1000 block of Hancock, I'd recommend residents look for another way to get to work. That's most of what I have. I'll try to take some questions, but a lot of this is still very preliminary.
Do you believe it's suspicious at all or any foul play?
Again, we investigate all deaths, so there's nothing to really be able to say to label anything, especially with a child. This early on, we just want to make sure that we get everything right. So we're not labeling anything. This is pretty standard for all, particularly child deaths.
Is there anybody in custody being questioning or anything of that nature?
We wouldn't comment, and I can tell you that there's no arrests.
Okay.
But people are obviously being talked to as part of the investigation, but no arrests, nobody at the jail or anything like that at this point.
I know everything is still fluid, but do we know kind of like what led up to this medical emergency? Anything that you can kind of maybe give us just a little insight on? I know it's fluid.
Nothing we can at this point. Detectives are still talking to family members and whatnot, and at some point I'm sure we'll be able to discuss that, but again, it's still very preliminary at this point.
And just to kind of go through the timeline a little bit, do you know what time you guys were initially called and then the subsequent things that happened after?
We were called at approximately 1:40 a.m. So we have obviously been out here for a while, especially with a child, but with all life-saving measures were attempted for quite some time before the child was ultimately pronounced dead.
Is it normal to have the whole road blocked off for something like this?
It is pretty normal, just because you never know where evidence might end up, and also just want to make sure that you're securing the scene. So it is pretty standard, on a street we're going to block both ends and just make sure that we find any evidence that might be out, and also so that people don't accidentally contaminate any crime scene.
Would you be able to tell us the sex of the child at this time or not yet?
Honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
I know it's 1 month, approximately 1 month old.
Approximately 1 month.
I don't know the gender.
Okay.
Anything else? All right. Thank you to our media partners for coming out early this morning and getting this information out. Obviously, if anybody does have information, please contact GRPD or Silent Observer. And please keep this family in your thoughts.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate
All right,
it.
thank you, everyone.